Christmas, my niece clinked her glass and toasted to being the only grandchild. No one corrected her. My mom smiled and nodded. My dad raised his glass. My 12-year-old daughter stared at her plate, fighting back tears. I didn't shout. I stood up and said this. The whole room went silent. If you've never hosted Christmas dinner, let me paint you a picture. It's like running a restaurant where the customers are your relatives, the chef is you, the health inspector is your mother, and the Yelp reviews are permanent. My husband Matt and I had hosted for the first time the year we adopted Nora. It mattered to me. Not because I love setting my money on fire buying extra chairs, but because Nora deserved a home where holidays didn't feel like a test she could fail. She was 8 when we adopted her. Old enough to read faces, old enough to understand what family meant, and old enough to be terrified that it could be taken back. So I hosted. I made traditions. I bought matching pajamas. I served food that required 3 different timers and a small prayer circle. And this year, I told myself, quietly, stupidly, that maybe things would finally feel normal. Mom and Dad arrived first, of course. They always do. My mother believes arriving early is a virtue. My father believes it's evidence that he is being helpful, which is adorable, because he once tried to help by reorganizing my spice rack, and I haven't found the paprika since 2021. Tiffany arrived next, my sister, wearing the kind of sweater that looks cozy but costs more than my first car. Brielle came with her, hair curled, outfit perfect, smile already warmed up like she was about to walk on stage. And then there were the other guests. Matt's aunt, a couple neighbors who didn't have family nearby, and one of Nora's friends' moms who had ended up staying after drop-off because she'd brought a pie and I'd trapped her with small talk. Which matters, because this wasn't just family. There were witnesses. Dinner happened the way it always happens in movies if the writers hate the main character. The food was good. The conversation was fine. The vibe was careful, like everyone was trying to keep their elbows off the table while also quietly sharpening knives under it. Nora was doing that thing she does when she's nervous, being extra polite, extra grateful, extra small. Like if she takes up too much space, someone will decide she doesn't belong. I noticed. I always notice. Because when you adopt an older child, you learn something very quickly. They don't just listen to what you say. They watch what you tolerate. And then we hit that natural pause in dinner when plates are mostly cleared, drinks are poured again, and someone decides the table needs a moment. Someone, my mother, made a comment about family traditions, smiling like she'd invented the concept. Brielle's eyes lit up. She pushed her chair back, stood up, and clinked her glass with a spoon. It was loud enough to make everyone look. People turned toward her, expecting something cute, something safe. Something like, "I'm thankful for my family," so we could all sigh in relief and go back to pie. Brielle smiled, chin lifted, sparkling like she'd been rehearsing this in the mirror. "To me," she said, raising her glass, "being the only grandchild." There was a beat of silence. Not the deep silence yet. The first one. The confused kind. The, "Did she really say that?" kind. A couple people chuckled automatically, then stopped, as if waiting for an adult to correct it. Because that's what a normal adult would do. They'd laugh awkwardly and say, "Oh, honey, you're not the only..." But my mom smiled and nodded like Brielle had just recited the Gettysburg Address. My dad raised his glass without hesitation. Tiffany leaned back in her chair, smiling, saying nothing. And that's when the room shifted. Not because of Brielle. Kids say ridiculous things all the time. They say the quiet part loud. They test boundaries. They poke at power. What makes it lethal is when adults reward it. Nora didn't cry. She didn't gasp. She didn't push her chair back dramatically. She just went still. Her eyes dropped to her plate like it suddenly contained the meaning of life. Her hands tightened around her napkin. Her shoulders locked, like she was trying to hold herself together with muscle alone. And I saw it. I saw the exact moment she decided to swallow her feelings so she wouldn't make anyone uncomfortable. Matt saw it too. His jaw tightened. He looked at me, not asking, just waiting. Because he knows me. He knows the version of me that used to let things slide. He also knows that version of me died somewhere around the time I signed the adoption papers and realized I'd spend the rest of my life choosing Nora out loud on purpose. I stood up. Not fast, not dramatic, just standing. The way you stand when you've made a decision and your body is simply catching up. I picked up my glass, and I waited just long enough that everyone had to look at me. The room stopped moving. Even my mother stopped chewing, an event so rare it should have been documented. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't make a speech. I said evenly, dry as sand. I'd like to propose a toast too, to clarity. If she's not family, neither are you. Coats are by the door. Anyone who agrees with that can leave. And then I set my glass down, deliberately, like punctuation. The whole room went silent. Not awkward silence, not confused silence. The kind of silence where you can hear someone's thoughts scraping against their skull. My mother's smile wavered first. "Sarah," she said, voice sweet in that fake way. "Oh, for heaven's sake. It was a joke." My dad's face hardened. "You can't throw us out," he said, like I'd tried to ban him from the state. Tiffany's eyes flashed. "Are you serious?" she snapped. "You're ruining Christmas over a toast?" Over a toast. Like my child's dignity was an appetizer. I didn't argue. Arguing is what people do when they think there's something to negotiate. I answered once, flat and short. "Not in my house." Then I turned toward the entryway, gestured to Coates, and opened the front door. Cold air rushed in, the kind that makes you suddenly aware of your own breath. "If you agreed," I said, "you're leaving." Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Dad stood up, chair scraping the floor in a way that made my neighbor flinch. Brielle looked confused, offended even, like she couldn't understand why the world wasn't applauding her. Tiffany shot up, grabbing her purse like it was armor. They started arguing while they moved, complaining, protesting, doing that thing people do when they can't get their way, making noise to punish you for not folding. But they still moved. Because the thing about a power shift is, it doesn't require their agreement. It requires your follow-through. A couple other guests sat frozen. Matt's aunt looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. One neighbor stared down at his lap, ashamed. Nora still didn't look up. And then the split happened. Some people stayed, quietly. They didn't say a word. They didn't defend Brielle's toast. They didn't defend my parents. They just stayed, like they'd been reminded that this wasn't a debate club. This was my home. Mom, Dad, Tiffany, and Brielle marched out into the cold. The door shut behind them. The noise was gone, and the quiet that followed wasn't empty. It was controlled. I walked back to Nora immediately. No victory lap, no triumphant speech. Just me returning to the person who mattered. I crouched beside her chair, gently touched her hand. Matt stepped in on the other side, a steady presence. Nora blinked hard. Her eyes were shiny. She still refused to look up, like eye contact might make the tears real. "Hey," I said softly, the tone I reserve for bruises and nightmares. "You don't have to be small." She swallowed. Matt said one quiet line, low enough that only we could hear. "You're ours. Always." Nora's shoulders loosened by a millimeter. It wasn't magic. It wasn't healing. It was just safety, returning in small pieces. I stood up and looked at the table. "Well," I said, forcing my voice back into normal. "Dry humor is a survival tool." Who wants dessert? Because I did not bake 2 pies for character development. A couple people laughed nervously, someone exhaled, someone nodded, and we continued. Not like nothing happened, like something happened, and we chose Nora anyway. Later that night, after the guests who stayed finally left, after the dishes were stacked, after Nora was tucked into bed with her favorite blanket pulled up to her chin, my phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. A few days later, the first desperate text came, and then another, and another. This didn't start at my Christmas table. That was just the first time it got said out loud, with a spoon against a glass and adults smiling like they were watching something adorable. If you want to understand why I stood up the way I did, why I didn't negotiate, why I didn't hear them out, you have to rewind to when Nora first became ours. Nora was 8 when we adopted her. 8 is a cruel age to start over, because you're old enough to understand what's happening, but still young enough to believe every bad thing is your fault. She didn't come to us as a blank slate. She came with a quiet, practiced politeness that looked like good manners until you realized it was fear. Fear of taking up space. Fear of needing too much. Fear of being sent back. Matt and I didn't fall into adoption like it was a cute Instagram story. It was paperwork, meetings, court dates, and the kind of waiting that makes you feel like you're asking permission to love a child. I remember the day we finally got the call. We were sitting in the car outside the courthouse, hands locked together so tight it hurt. Nora was in the back seat, wearing a dress she'd picked herself because she said it made her feel official. She kept smoothing the fabric down like she could iron out the anxiety with her palms. I looked at Matt and whispered, "No matter what happens, we don't let her think she's temporary." Matt didn't even hesitate. "She's not temporary." That was the promise. Chosen means permanent. My parents had 4 years to adjust to that promise. 4 years is not a transition period. 4 years is a lifestyle. And yet, they never really adjusted. It wasn't always a big, obvious insult. It was the slow drip, the kind you can ignore if you're tired enough. Like the first time my mom introduced Brielle to one of her friends and said proudly, "This is my granddaughter." Then she turned to Nora and said, "And this is Sarah's kid." Not my other granddaughter. Not even Nora's name. Sarah's kid. Like she was a package I'd brought along by mistake. I corrected it politely because I'm a woman and I've been trained since birth to smooth things over like it's my job. "Mom," I said with a little laugh, "Nora is your granddaughter too." My mom laughed back, and Dad shrugged like this was none of his business, even though it was literally his business to be a grandfather. Tiffany didn't correct anything. She didn't have to. The room had already decided who counted. Another time, at a holiday gathering, Nora sat beside me on the couch while Brielle ran around the living room like she owned it. Someone asked my mom how many grandkids she had, and my mom waved a hand toward Brielle like she was presenting a prize. "1," she said. Nora was 9 back then. It was 5 months after adoption. I thought maybe they just need more time. Nora didn't react, not outwardly. She just went very still. Her eyes dropped to her lap, and later in the car she asked me, quiet as a whisper, "Did I do something wrong?" That's the moment that haunts me. Not my mother's words. My daughter's instinct to blame herself for someone else's cruelty. I kept showing up anyway, because I wanted Nora to have a family. I wanted her to have cousins and holidays and a messy circle of relatives the way other kids did. I thought maybe if we kept giving them chances, they'd get it. And I had another reason too, one I didn't like admitting out loud. My parents had started a small online boutique. Cute photos, pretty clothes, big talk about the brand. My mother loved saying brand, like she'd invented the concept, and not like she was selling blouses through a website that crashed every other Tuesday. They loved the fun parts, picking inventory, posting pictures, talking about drops and collections. The part they didn't love was everything that happened after someone actually clicked buy. That part quietly became mine, keeping the website working, updating listings and sizes, answering customer emails, handling returns and complaints, putting out review fires before they spread. If you've never managed an online shop, let me translate. It's a constant parade of tiny emergencies, and most of them arrive in caps lock. Where is my order? This size runs small. I want a refund now. And every time my mom would laugh and say, "It's just 5 minutes, Sarah." 5 minutes. Yes, 5 minutes. The way raising a child is just 20 years, and the way keeping a house clean is just one afternoon, if you ignore reality. On top of that, Matt and I sent them money every month because the business wasn't stable yet. There was always a reason, always a rough patch, always a one-time thing that somehow happened every month. They were always one bad month away from real trouble. And I kept helping because I told myself the same lie over and over. If I keep being the daughter who fixes things, maybe they'll finally act like the grandparents Nora deserves. It never worked. Then, a couple months before Christmas, something happened that should have been their turning point. A buyer, an actual buyer, not a random lady in a Facebook group, had reached out about placing a bulk order. Not 1 or 2 pieces. A real order. The kind that would take their boutique from scraping and stressing to comfortable. It wasn't guaranteed yet, but it was close. I'd already spoken to the buyer, and the tone had been clear. If I was vouching for them, the buyer was interested. And that's the important part. The trust wasn't in my parents. The trust was in me. My name was the bridge. I mentioned it casually once. Not as a brag. Not as a big announcement, just in the middle of one of those family conversations where everyone talks over each other. After the holidays, I'd said, I might be able to set up something that really helps the boutique. My mom's eyes lit up. Dad leaned forward. Tiffany smiled like she'd won something. And from that moment on, they started talking like it was already theirs. Not maybe, not if it works out. Not, we're grateful, just theirs. Which is why, when those texts started stacking after Christmas, I didn't answer. I opened my banking app instead, because I was finally seeing the pattern in high definition. They never noticed Nora's face first. They noticed my usefulness. And if they could raise a glass to my child not counting, they didn't get my labor, my money, or my name attached to their next big break. Not anymore. By the time I opened my banking app, my phone had buzzed so many times it felt like it was trying to crawl off the counter. Matt was on the couch pretending to watch TV. He wasn't watching anything. He was watching me. Nora was upstairs in bed. Her door cracked open the way she always left it when she was uneasy, like she needed proof we were still there. I stared at the monthly transfer, that little line item that had become normal, like it was a bill we owed for existing. I could practically hear my mother's voice. It's not a big deal, Sarah. It's just a little help. It was never a little help. It was their safety net, and they'd been standing on it while telling me it didn't matter. I canceled it. 1 tap. Gone. Then I did the second thing. I opened my notes app, the one with all the boutique passwords, the customer templates, the 5-minute fixes that had eaten years of my evenings, and I didn't send it to them. I didn't write a manual. I didn't volunteer a training session. I just stopped. No more fixing. No more responding. No more cleaning up their mess behind the scenes. And then I did the third thing. The one thing I never thought I'd do, because it wasn't just money. It was my name, my credibility, my reputation. I pulled my name off the buyer. I opened the message thread. The buyer's last note was polite, upbeat, full of future tense. Excited to move forward. Just need to confirm details. I typed calmly. Hi, quick update. I'm stepping away and won't be involved going forward, and I can't vouch or act as point person. If you still want to proceed, please work directly with them. I read it twice. Not because I was unsure, because I wanted to make sure it was clean, not sabotage, not spite, a boundary. Then I hit send. The room didn't change. No thunderclap, no dramatic music. Just me sitting on my couch, heart steady in my chest for the first time in a long time. I sent Mom and Dad one short text right after. Hire someone. Don't ask me again. No paragraphs. No, after what you did. No argument to chew on. Just a locked door. My phone kept buzzing. I set it face down and went upstairs. Nora's light was still on. She was sitting up in bed, rabbit tucked under her arm, eyes too wide for bedtime. She looked up when I knocked. Hey, I said softly. She hesitated, then asked the question like it physically hurt to say it out loud. Did they mean it? The same question she'd asked in different forms since she was 8. Do I count? Am I real? Am I just tolerated? I sat on the edge of the bed. What they did was wrong, I said. And cruel. Nora swallowed. But, Grandma smiled. I saw, I said. I kept my voice even. And I'm not going to pretend that didn't matter. Her fingers tightened around the rabbit's ear. So, I'm not... Stop. I said it gently but firm. You are our daughter. Your family. Full stop. Matt appeared in the doorway like he'd been hovering nearby. He didn't push in. He just leaned against the frame and said, quiet and solid, always. Nora blinked fast. One tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it away immediately, like feelings were something she needed to keep tidy. I hated that. I brushed the tear away with my thumb. You don't have to be small here, I said. You don't have to earn your place. She nodded, but it was a shaky nod, like she was trying to believe it. And I knew what she needed more than another speech. She needed proof. So I stood up and said, try to sleep. Tomorrow is ours. Downstairs, the phone was still buzzing. This time I looked. Dad. Where's the transfer? Mom. Answer your phone. Tiffany. You humiliated us. Mom. We need to talk. Dad. Call me now. I didn't reply. I let it stack. Because here's the thing about pressure. It only works if you let it into your house. The next text came an hour later, and it wasn't about Nora. It was about money again. Dad. We're short this month. Dad. This isn't funny. The buyer email came the next morning. Not to me. To them. I know because Mom forwarded it like it was evidence in a trial. The subject line might as well have been, you did this, buyer. We're only comfortable proceeding with Sarah as point person. Please let us know if she will remain involved. My mother's message underneath was just, what did you do? I stared at it for a long moment. Not because I felt guilty, because it was so perfectly on brand. They didn't ask about Nora. They didn't ask why I drew the line. They didn't say sorry. They asked what I did, because their world had always been built on what I could do for them. Then my phone rang. Finally, I answered. Speakerphone. Because Matt was beside me, and because I wanted everything in the open in my own home. Mom's voice burst out like she'd been holding her breath. Sarah, are you insane? Dad's voice came right after, heavy and furious. You can't do that! I kept my voice calm. Dry humor is easier than tears. Good morning to you too. This is serious, Mom snapped. That buyer, Sarah, that changes everything. That buyer is not more important than my daughter, I said. A beat of silence. Then Mom tried the first angle, the one she always used when she wanted to erase reality. It was a joke, she said quickly. Brielle was being silly. You know we love Nora. Dad grunted. You're overreacting. I stared at the wall while I spoke, because if I pictured their faces, I might lose the calm I'd fought for. You raised your glass, I said. That wasn't a joke to Nora. Mom's voice went sharp. Don't twist it. I'm not twisting anything, I said. I'm repeating what happened. Dad tried the second angle, the one that used to work because I was trained to flinch. We're your parents, he said. We raised you. You owe us. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. You're not owed a relationship with my child, I said. Mom inhaled sharply. So you're punishing us? No, I said. I'm protecting her. Then came the third angle. Panic. Dad's voice cracked around the edges of anger. That buyer is a bulk order, Sarah. That's stability. That's money. I finished for him. Mom's voice turned pleading in an instant, like she'd flipped a switch. Just call them back. Tell them you're still involved. Please. Just fix it. We need this. And there it was. Not an apology. A demand wrapped in desperation. They couldn't believe their ears because, in their minds, I was the automatic support system. I wasn't supposed to withdraw. I wasn't supposed to say no. I wasn't supposed to choose my child over their comfort. You really did it, Mom whispered, like she was tasting betrayal. You really canceled it. I stepped away, I corrected. I'm not attached to you anymore. Dad's voice rose. You have no right. I have every right, I said, still calm. Because it was my name on the line. Mom tried again, softer. We love Nora. You love access, I said. You love my help. You love my money. You love what I can do. That's not fair, she hissed. I let my voice go very flat. Nora's dignity isn't a price tag, I said. You don't get to erase her and still cash my checks. Silence. Then Dad said bitterly, You're really going to destroy us. I took a breath. I'm really going to be Nora's mom, I said. That's my job, not saving you. Mom started talking again, fast, frantic, trying to fill the air with words like words could move me. I ended it. I hung up. Not slammed, not dramatic. Hung up. My phone immediately rang again. I muted it. Then I set the phone down and went upstairs to check on Nora, because that was the point, and I wasn't going to let their panic become her new bedtime soundtrack. A week later, relatives started checking in. You know the kind. People who haven't spoken to you in 5 years suddenly become deeply invested in your emotional well-being the moment there's drama to snack on. Aunt Diane called first. Sweetheart, she said, voice syrupy. Your mother is beside herself. I didn't let her warm up. They raised a glass to my child, not counting, I said. Silence. Then, smaller. Oh. That O traveled faster than any family group chat ever could. Of course, Mom and Dad had their own version ready. Tiffany helped. In their story, I was unstable, dramatic, cruel. I had sabotaged the family business. I had destroyed their future. I had pulled the buyer deal out of spite. Funny how their story always made me the villain and never asked why a 12-year-old was staring at her plate trying not to cry. When people asked me what happened, I didn't write essays. I didn't explain for 15 minutes. I used one sentence. They raised a glass to my child, not counting. Some people backed off right there. They didn't like the taste of it. Others tried the classics. But they're your parents. It's family. You can't hold grudges. I didn't argue. I just repeated the same sentence. Because if people want you to be the bigger person, it usually means they want you to be the flatter doormat. Then Mom and Dad showed up at my door. Not frantic this time. Controlled. Rehearsed. Like they'd practiced in the car. Mom held a gift bag. The kind of bag that's supposed to signal love. Her eyes were shiny. Her voice was soft. "Sarah," she said, "we've been thinking. We want to make things right." Matt was behind me in the hallway, not looming, just present. A reminder that I wasn't alone in my own home. Nora was in the house. I didn't have to see her to know she was listening. She always listened when adults came to the door. Old habits die hard. Mom went on. "We love Nora. We do. We never meant to hurt her." Dad nodded like a man agreeing with a statement he'd rather not sign. I didn't step aside. I didn't invite them in. I just waited, because I knew what was coming. I'd lived this cycle my whole life, and sure enough, within minutes, the slip. Mom's voice shifted, just slightly, like the mask was getting heavy. "And about the buyer," she said carefully. "Sarah, you have to understand what you did." Dad's jaw tightened. "That was everything," he said. There it was. Not, "How is Nora?" Not, "We were wrong." The buyer. Mom rushed on, words spilling now that the real topic was out. "Just call them back. Tell them you're still involved. You can still fix this." I let the silence hang for a beat. Then I said quietly, "So this is why you're here." Mom's eyes flashed. "No." "Yes," I said. "You didn't come to talk about Nora. You came to talk about your money." Dad's voice went hard. "Don't talk to us like that." "You're talking to me like that," I said. "In my doorway." Mom tried to soften again because she could feel it slipping. "Sarah, honey, we're family." "You toasted that Nora wasn't," I said. Mom's mouth tightened. "You know what we meant." There it was, the real belief sliding out like a knife. I kept my voice calm. "I know exactly what you meant," I said. "That's why you're outside." Dad took a step forward like he wanted to bulldoze his way through the boundary. "We need you." I didn't move. I didn't have to. "No," I said. Mom's voice went sharp, the sweetness fully gone. "So you're going to let us lose everything?" I looked straight at her. "I'm going to let Nora keep her peace," I said. Then I did the simplest thing in the world. I closed the door. Not slammed. Closed. Inside, I stood in the entryway for a moment, breathing, letting my heart slow down. From the hallway, Nora's small voice floated out. "Are they gone?" I turned and saw her peeking around the corner, rabbit clutched to her chest like armor. "Yes," I said. And she exhaled. A full-body exhale, like her lungs had been holding tension for years. That's the moment people don't understand when they tell you to be the bigger person. That exhale. That's the price of peace. And I'll pay it every time. Fast forward. My parents' boutique didn't survive. Not because I cast a spell on it. Not because I hacked anything. Not because I sabotaged them. It didn't survive because it had been balanced on my unpaid labor and my monthly money for so long that the second I stepped away, gravity did what gravity always does. They went bankrupt. And then they lost the house. Not immediately. Not in one dramatic movie scene with suitcases on the lawn. It was slower. Notices, calls, panic, silence. Then smaller living arrangements and fewer places for my mother to brag about. Tiffany didn't bounce back the way she thought she would. Turns out, when you benefit from someone else's stability, you don't get to keep the perks when that stability disappears. She ended up stuck in a job she would have mocked before, something with a name tag and a schedule she couldn't control. The kind of job where you can't wear a sweater that costs more than someone's car and pretend you're above it all. I didn't celebrate that. I just noticed it. Because consequences don't need applause. They arrive on their own. Nora, on the other hand, changed in ways that mattered. She stopped watching the door like someone might come in and take her life apart. She stopped shrinking in rooms. She laughed more. Real laughs, not nervous ones. She started taking up space like she was allowed to exist. Our holidays got smaller, better, quieter in the right way. Matt and I started new traditions that didn't involve swallowing insults and calling it family. And every time Nora looked up at me with that softened expression, I knew exactly what I'd chosen. So tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.
Hi, quick hello. This is an original story from Tales Fair, and I have to say the audacity in this one is unreal. Alright, let's get into it.
My mother-in-law banned me and my 7-year-old from my husband's sister's wedding with 97 guests and over 20 children. Her kid doesn't belong with us, she said casually. I didn't shout. I made one quiet move. When the wedding payment was due, they checked the account and started screaming. By the time I heard Linda say it, I was standing in my kitchen with pancake batter on my wrist and a glittery barrette in my palm. Lily had picked it out the night before, purple, sparkly, because Aunt Brittany likes purple. She'd laid it on the table like a crown, like a promise. She was 7, old enough to care, young enough to still believe adults mean well. I clipped it onto her hair and told myself we were fine. That's the thing about being fine. It's usually a costume. You wear it until someone rips it off in public. Jason came downstairs dressed like a man headed to tragedy, carrying a garment bag. A garment bag. For tragedy. Sure. We'd been married 7 years. 7 years of school drop-offs, dentist reminders, PTA emails, and me translating Jason's family's jokes into what they actually were. Little tests, little pokes, tiny calculated cuts. Linda never screamed. She never had to. Linda was the kind of woman who could ruin your day with a compliment. "Oh, Sarah," she'd say, smiling like she'd just discovered a new species. "I love how you try." We lived in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, the kind with Target 5 minutes away and an HOA that believed grass length was a moral issue. From the street, our life looked normal. A husband, a kid, a house with seasonal wreaths and Amazon packages on the porch. But inside the house, Jason's family still acted like I was a temporary employee. Useful, replaceable. Not quite one of them. Jason poured coffee into his travel mug and didn't meet my eyes. "I have to go," he said. "My mom's in the hospital." I blinked. "What? Linda? What happened?" He shifted his weight like the floor was unstable. "I don't know. Brittany called. It's bad." My hands went automatically to my phone. "Okay, then we'll go. I'll call the school, grab Lily." "No!" Too fast. Too sharp. "No, Sarah. Lily has school, and hospitals are germs, and you'll just in the way." I finished quietly. Jason finally looked at me, irritation already loaded like he'd been waiting all morning for me to ask the wrong question. "Sarah, please, let me handle it." Handle it. Like he handled everything, by keeping me out of the room until it was too late to object. Lily padded into the kitchen in unicorn pajamas, hair sticking up, eyes half open. "Dad?" she asked, sleepy. "Is Grandma Linda okay?" Jason's face rearranged itself in half a second. Dad mode. Warm smile. Soft voice. "She's sick, Bug, but she'll be fine." He kissed Lily's forehead, grabbed his keys, and walked out. garment bag swinging. The house went quiet in that specific way it does after someone drops a lie on the floor and expects you to build a rug over it. Lily climbed into her chair and swung her legs. Can we still go to Aunt Brittany's wedding? I froze. Wedding? I repeated, like the word had come from a different language. Lily nodded like it was obvious. Daddy said it's this weekend. Jason hadn't mentioned a wedding, not once. Not even a casual, hey, my sister's getting married, don't freak out. Who told you that? I asked, too evenly. Lily shrugged. He said it on the phone last night. He said, Mom, stop. I'm trying to keep Sarah calm. Oh, so there was a script. I just wasn't given my lines. I forced my face into something gentle because Lily's eyes were on me, wide and trusting. Go get dressed, I said. And don't forget your backpack. She hopped off, humming, and I stood there with pancake batter drying on my skin and a feeling settling in my chest like wet cement. Because when you've been married long enough, you learn the difference between forgot and hid. Jason didn't forget his sister's wedding. He hid it, which meant someone told him to. And Jason, loyal to his mother like it was a religion, obeyed. I drove Lily to school like it was normal, smiled at her teacher, kissed her cheek, watched her run inside with purple sparkle in her hair. Then I sat in the parking lot and stared straight ahead, trying to manufacture an innocent explanation. Maybe Brittany's wedding was small. Maybe Linda really was sick and they'd postponed it. Maybe I was overreacting. That's the other thing toxic families do. They don't just exclude you. They train you to doubt your own senses. My phone buzzed. Jason. At hospital, it's a mess. Don't worry, Lily. I'll update you later. Hospital. Sure. I drove home and did what I always did when Jason's family made me feel crazy. I looked for receipts. They were in a folder in the pantry, tucked behind Costco paper towels. Because apparently our marriage ran on bulk supplies and hidden documents. Inside were spreadsheets. Jason loved a spreadsheet when it didn't involve accountability, and printed emails, and on top, a glossy contract with gold lettering. Oak and Iron Catering. Fairview Country Club. Event date, Saturday. Guest count, 97. Children, 24. 97 guests. 24 children, and somehow my 7-year-old didn't belong. I flipped to the payment schedule. Deposit paid. Second installment paid. Final payment due. Friday, 10 a.m. Tomorrow. Then I saw it. Billing contact. Sarah. Email. Mine. Linked account. Our joint checking. My name. Not Jason's. Not Brittany's. Mine. Because 2 years ago, Linda had smiled across my dining table, right after telling me I did such a nice job folding napkins for Thanksgiving, and said, "You're so organized, Sarah. It's easier if the family stuff goes through you." And I, because I wanted peace, because I wanted belonging, because I still believed effort gets rewarded, had said, sure. I'd heard trust. It had actually been convenience. I stood there in my pantry, holding a catering contract like it was a legal notice, and suddenly a bunch of old memories slid into place like a cruel little puzzle. Linda forgetting to add my name to family group texts. Linda insisting Lily wear a cardigan for photos because bright colors draw attention. Linda calling Lily sweetie, but never using her name, like names meant attachment. Linda's favorite phrase, spoken softly over dessert, "We're just different kinds of people." And Jason, every time, pretending not to notice. "We don't have to make everything a thing," he'd say. Funny how everything was always me. I called Jason. Voicemail. I called Linda. Voicemail. I called Brittany. It rang once, then stopped. Rejected. Not ignored, rejected, like a door slam with intent. So I opened social media. Brittany's profile was public because Brittany believed in privacy the way she believed in consequences, vaguely and mostly for other people. Her stories were a highlight reel. Bridesmaids in matching robes, champagne flutes lined up on a hotel counter, a flat lay of invitations I had never seen, hashtags, filters, the world's most expensive happiness. And then I found a video from the rehearsal dinner. I tapped. String lights, white linens, laughter that sounded expensive. And there, in the center of the frame, was Linda, my critically ill mother-in-law, standing, smiling, holding a wine glass, very much not dying. The camera zoomed in on her like she was the main character, and Linda leaned towards someone off-screen and said, perfectly clear, "Of course Sarah isn't coming." Someone laughed. "Why not?" Linda waved her hand like she was brushing lint off her sleeve. "She just doesn't fit," she said. "And her kid, please, her kid doesn't belong with us." I told Jason, Sarah and Lily are not to show up, period. Casually, like she was commenting on the weather, like my daughter was a stain. The camera kept rolling. Linda kept talking about keeping it tasteful, about not letting certain energy in, about how Brittany deserves better than awkwardness. And in the background, I heard Jason laugh. Not loud, not proud, just present, complicit. I watched it twice, because denial is a stubborn animal. Then my screen went dark, and I sat there in my silent house, hearing the hum of the refrigerator and my own breathing, and I realized something that made my stomach go hollow. This wasn't about a wedding. This was about Lily. Because if Linda had only hated me, she would have tolerated my presence. Linda loved having someone to look down on. It gave her something to do between brunch and judging people's landscaping. But Lily? Lily was proof. Proof that I wasn't temporary. Proof that I had roots. Proof that I was, technically, family. And Linda couldn't stand that. I could have screamed. I could have called Jason and unloaded 7 years of swallowed hurt into his voicemail like a manifesto. I could have driven to Fairview Country Club and walked into the rehearsal dinner like a hurricane. And they would have loved that, because then the story becomes, Sarah is unstable, not, Linda is cruel. So I didn't shout. I made one quiet move. I opened my laptop and logged into our bank. The joint account was where everything lived. Mortgage autopay, utilities, groceries, Jason's truck payment, Lily's after-school program, and apparently, Linda's fantasy wedding. I stared at the balance. It wasn't just money. It was proof. Proof that I'd been carrying more than my share while being treated like I should be grateful for the privilege. Jason's paycheck paid the basics. My freelance work, little contracts I did after Lily fell asleep, built the cushion. I was the one who remembered due dates. I was the one who called the insurance company when something didn't process. I was the one who made the spreadsheet Jason loved so much. And my name was on that account, which meant legally, I wasn't stealing. I was securing. If you've never been pushed far enough, you might think the moment you snap is loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's clicking transfer. I opened the separate account I'd kept from before we got married, the one my mom insisted I keep just in case, back when I thought just in case meant car repairs. I initiated the transfer, clean, simple, and I left behind exactly $127.43, because I wanted the balance to say something, not oops, not error, a message, a receipt. I confirmed the transfer. The loading circle spun, and then it was done. No fireworks, just reality shifting. I closed the laptop. Then I packed. Not dramatically, not for revenge, for oxygen, for Lily. Because if Linda wanted to talk about belonging, I was going to show my daughter exactly where she belonged. With me. I didn't have a perfect plan. I had a deadline, school pickup, and a nervous system that had just been hit by a truck. So I did what every stressed-out American mom does when life breaks. I opened my phone and booked a trip. Florida popped up first because the algorithm knows when you're unstable. There was a flight that evening, 2 seats left, a hotel with a pool, a refundable rate. I clicked. I paid. I put the flight and hotel on my credit card, the one in my name. I didn't tell anyone, because I already knew how that would go. Jason would say I was overreacting. Linda would say I was selfish. Brittany would cry. And Lily would watch adults punish her for existing. No. I picked Lily up from school like it was any normal weekday afternoon. She ran to the car, backpack bouncing, barrette still shining. Mom, guess what? Hey, baby, I said, voice too bright. How would you feel about an adventure? Her eyes widened. Like a surprise? Like you and me, I said. Just us. She hesitated. Is Daddy coming? No, I said gently. Lily looked down at her hands. Did we get uninvited? That question, coming from a 7-year-old, made my throat tighten, because it meant she already understood social rejection, already knew how it feels. We weren't invited, I said. Her face went still, like her brain refused the data. But Aunt Brittany likes me, she whispered. I thought of Linda's voice, casual and cruel, and felt my teeth press together. I reached over and took Lily's hand. Some people say things that aren't true, I said, choosing each word carefully. And sometimes they do things that aren't kind. But that's about them, not you. Her eyes filled. Did I do something wrong? That question cracked something open in me. Not anger. A vow. No, I said, firm. You did nothing wrong. You are not the problem. You don't ever have to earn a place. Lily sniffed. So where are we going? I smiled, the first real smile I'd had all day. Somewhere with a big pool and ice cream. Somewhere nobody gets to tell you you don't belong. She blinked. Is it Disney? Of course it was. It might be, I said. That evening, we walked through the airport with one suitcase and Lily's backpack. She held my hand like if she let go, the world might change its mind. I bought her a pretzel bigger than her face. I let her pick a ridiculous keychain. I watched her curiosity start to push the sadness aside, just a little. Before we boarded, I sent Jason one message. Lily and I are safe. We're taking a trip. Do not contact me through your mother. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. Then I emailed the same thing. Because in America, timestamps matter when people like Linda decide to rewrite reality. I put my phone on airplane mode and watched Lily press her forehead to the window as the plane lifted off. Quiet. Not the quiet of defeat. The quiet of leaving a room where you've been insulted and realizing you don't have to stay. Friday morning, we woke up in a hotel room that smelled faintly of chlorine and waffle maker syrup. Lily bounced on the bed like gravity was optional. Pool first? She asked. Pool first, I agreed. We swam. We ate pancakes. Lily giggled so hard she snorted, then laughed even harder because she'd snorted. For a few hours, she was just a kid, not someone's embarrassment, not a problem to hide. Just a kid with wet hair and bright eyes and a mother who was finally choosing her. And then my phone came back to life. Missed calls, voicemails, texts that looked like they'd been typed with shaking hands. Jason's voicemail hit first, sharp, panicked. Sarah, what the hell did you do? Brittany is freaking out. The account. Sarah, call me right now. Brittany's voicemail was pure meltdown, the kind where the world ends because a spotlight is dimmer than expected. "This is my wedding," she sobbed. "The caterer won't start service without payment. Fix it! You're ruining everything!" Linda's voicemail arrived like a performance. She tried to sound sweet, like she hadn't just publicly disowned my child. "Sarah, sweetheart," she said, syrupy, "there's been a misunderstanding. Transfer the money back. This is not the time for your tantrum. Be reasonable." Tantrum? Right. Because when Linda humiliates a child, it's taste. When a mother protects her kid, it's a tantrum. I stared at the voicemails and felt something almost like laughter rise in my chest. Not joy, relief. Because for the first time, their panic proved I wasn't crazy. The payment was due, and suddenly, my presence mattered. Funny how that works. I texted Jason one sentence. "I saw the video. Don't lie to me again." Then I put my phone away and took Lily to get ice cream. On the walk back, Lily skipped and held her cup with both hands like it was sacred. "Mom?" she asked quietly. "Yeah, baby? Are we in trouble?" My throat tightened. "Why would we be in trouble?" She looked down. "Daddy sounded mad on the phone. And Grandma doesn't like me." That last part was said softly, like a confession, like she'd been carrying it already. I stopped walking and crouched in front of her. "Listen to me," I said, steady. "You and I are not in trouble. You are not a problem. You are not too much. You are not anything Grandma says when she's being mean." Lily's eyes filled. "But why doesn't she like me?" "Because you're connected to me," I wanted to say. "Because you're proof Linda can't erase." But I didn't hand my 7-year-old the full horror of adult psychology. I gave her the truth she could hold. "Sometimes," I said, "people have something broken in them, and instead of fixing it, they take it out on other people. That doesn't mean you're not lovable. It means Grandma isn't safe with her words." Lily sniffed, then nodded like she was filing it away. "Okay," she whispered. Then, after a pause, "Can we get sprinkles tomorrow too?" I laughed, because kids are resilient in the most humbling way. "Sprinkles tomorrow," I promised. That afternoon, while Lily napped, I did the unglamorous part of leaving. Not the cinematic part, the paperwork part. I opened a notes app and started listing what I needed if this turned into a legal mess. Birth certificate, social security card, school records, health insurance numbers, passwords. I changed the passwords first, not out of spite, out of safety. Because when a man panics, he doesn't always become violent. Sometimes he becomes reckless. Sometimes he starts fixing things. And I didn't trust Jason's definition of fixing anymore. I froze my credit. I moved my direct deposit. I documented every message. Then I booked a consult with a family law attorney back home. Her name was Michelle. Her tone suggested she'd heard, "My spouse's mother is a problem," so many times it had its own category. She listened while I told her the facts. Joint account, my name on the billing, the video, the trip, the texts. When I finished, she said calmly, "You're not kidnapping your child by taking a trip, but keep communication in writing. Keep your location known, and don't refuse reasonable contact with your husband unless he becomes abusive." Then, "And the money. Moving funds from a joint account you're on isn't illegal. But in divorce, the court cares about fairness. Don't spend it. Just secure it. We'll document why you did it." Fairness. Documentation. America loves paperwork almost as much as Linda loves control. Michelle also said something that stuck with me. "Your daughter's emotional safety matters," she said. "Courts don't like grandparents who alienate a child. Keep records. Don't exaggerate. Just document." So I did. Back at the wedding on Saturday, because yes, they still had the wedding, Jason's texts started arriving in bursts, like updates from a disaster zone. They're holding dinner. The planner says they'll shut down the bar. People are asking questions. Mom is screaming at everyone. Please, transfer it back. We'll talk after. After Brittany got her photos. After Linda got her perfect day. After the guests ate and stopped whispering. Then we could talk. I looked over at Lily, curled on the couch with a towel around her shoulders, watching cartoons with damp hair and a pool bracelet on her wrist. And something settled in me like a final decision. I wasn't negotiating my child's dignity. I didn't answer. Saturday afternoon, I got one more message from Jason. Shorter. Different. The venue told Brittany they can't serve until the balance clears. They're literally standing there. Everyone's watching. I pictured it with vivid clarity. The Fairview Country Club, all polished floors and soft lighting and staff trained to smile through chaos. Brittany in her dress, hair perfect, mascara running anyway. Linda in pearls, hissing at the coordinator like the coordinator personally stole her youth. 97 guests shifting in their seats. 24 kids asking for chicken tenders, and a wedding planner whispering, "We need the payment before service." Because in America, you can't family your way out of a contract. A contract is a contract, and my name was on it, which meant Linda had been happy to use my name when it made her life easier, just not happy to let my child sit at a table. My phone rang. Jason. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. His voice was ragged now. "Sarah," he said, quieter than before. "Please. Just, please. We'll figure everything out later. My mom is... Brittany is... This is humiliating." Humiliating. That word. Not wrong. Not cruel. Humiliating. Like the real tragedy was that people were watching. I deleted the voicemail, not because I didn't need it, because I didn't want Lily hearing his voice like that if my phone accidentally played it. Some things don't get to enter her world. That night, Lily and I sat on the balcony eating fries out of a paper basket. Palm trees swayed. Warm air wrapped around us like a blanket. Lily dipped a fry in ketchup and asked casually, "Are we going home to Daddy?" I took a breath. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. She nodded like she accepted that. Then her face tightened, and she asked the question that made my heart ache. "Did Daddy not want me there?" I could have lied. I could have said, "Daddy loves you, honey, it's complicated." But kids can smell lies like smoke. So I told her the truth she deserved. "Daddy made a bad choice," I said. "And I'm going to make sure you're safe while he figures out how to make better ones." Lily leaned against me and whispered, "I like you better." I laughed, watery and real. "Same," I said. On Monday, Jason finally called in a different tone. Smaller, exhausted, like someone who'd spent a weekend cleaning up a mess he helped make. I answered because I was ready, not because he deserved it. "Where are you?" he asked. "On a trip," I said. "With Lily. You can't just take her." "I can," I replied calmly. "She's my child too. And I told you she's safe. I put it in writing." Silence. Then, carefully, "Brittany's wedding was a disaster." I made a soft sound. "Oh? They had to borrow money," he admitted. "My dad did a cash advance. Mom called everyone. The caterer delayed dinner. The bar shut down for an hour. People were talking. It was bad." "And?" I asked. Jason's voice cracked. "Why did you do it? Why would you do this to us?" "To us. Not to Lily. Not to me. To the wedding." I felt my jaw tighten. "Jason," I said quietly, Your mother said her kid doesn't belong with us on video. You lied to me about a hospital, and I heard you laughing in the background. Silence. On the internet. You lied to me about a hospital. She didn't mean it about Lily. He tried, weak. I let out a short, humorless laugh. She said it like she was choosing napkins. I didn't know what to do, he whispered. You did, I said. You just didn't want to do it. Standing up to your mother was harder than lying to your wife. His breath shook. I'm sorry. The apology didn't warm me. It wasn't for Lily. It wasn't even really for me. It was for the consequences he didn't like. What happens now? He asked. I watched Lily in the shallow end of the pool, laughing with another kid. Her shoulders relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. What happens now, I said, is we talk to a lawyer. We make a custody plan. We set boundaries. Because I'm done living around your mother. You're divorcing me, he whispered. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But you don't get to keep us and also treat us like we're optional. He made a sound like he wanted to argue. Then he didn't, because somewhere deep down, he knew I was right. When Lily and I came home a week later, the house felt the same. Same walls, same couch. But the air felt exposed, like something had been opened and couldn't be closed again. Jason was waiting. Flowers sat on the table like an apology you can buy at a grocery store. I didn't touch them. Flowers don't fix betrayal. Lily walked in, stared at Jason for a moment, and asked the question adults avoid. Why didn't I get to go to the wedding? Jason flinched and glanced at me like he wanted rescue. I didn't move. He knelt. It was wrong, he said, voice rough. Grandma said something mean, and I should have stopped it. Lily's lip trembled. Did you hear her? Jason nodded. I did. Why didn't you stop her? Lily whispered. Jason stared at the floor like answers lived in the carpet. Then he admitted the ugliest truth. Because I was scared. Lily blinked. Scared of Grandma? Jason nodded, shame all over his face. Lily's expression tightened in that heartbreaking way kids do when they realize adults can be weak. Well, she said, small but firm. I'm not scared of her. She's just rude. Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds comes clarity adults spend decades running from. Jason's shoulders sagged, and for the first time in 7 years, he looked less like Linda's son and more like a man seeing the damage his loyalty caused. The next weeks weren't dramatic. They were practical. Michelle drafted paperwork. We created a temporary schedule. Jason moved into the guest room. We started communicating more in writing than in person because writing doesn't let people rewrite your tone later. Jason started therapy because apparently that's what it takes for some men to understand that boundaries are not a personal attack. Lily stayed with me most nights. Jason had set times with her. He picked her up from school. He showed up. He tried. I noticed. I didn't reward him with forgiveness for effort, but I noticed. And Linda? Linda tried to regain control the only way she knew how, by escalating. First, she sent texts. Sarah, you need to stop. This is not how we handle family matters. You will be held accountable. Held accountable. By who? The wedding police? Then she sent long emails about family unity and respect. Then she tried calling Lily through Jason as if a 7-year-old exists to soothe a grandmother's ego. Jason finally told her no, and that's when she showed up. A Tuesday afternoon, unannounced. Pearls on, anger polished to a shine. She didn't ask about Lily. Of course she didn't. She stepped out of her SUV like she owned the street and pointed at me in my own driveway. You are destroying this family, she said. I looked her over. Hi, Linda. Nice of you to finally acknowledge I exist. Don't be smart, she snapped. I'm not being smart, I said. I'm being accurate. You stole money. I transferred money from an account my name is on, I corrected. And my attorney is documenting everything. That word, attorney, made her eyes flash. Jason stepped outside behind me, drawn by the noise. Linda's face softened instantly. Sweet mom voice. Performance smile. Oh, honey, she cooed. Look what she's doing to you. Jason didn't hug her. He didn't smile. He just stood there. And something in Linda's face flickered. Confusion. Because in Linda's world, Jason was supposed to come running. Mom, Jason said quietly, you need to leave. Linda blinked. Excuse me? You need to leave, he repeated. You said awful things about Lily. You lied. You made me lie. And you humiliated Sarah. Linda's mouth tightened. I humiliated no one. She humiliated herself. Jason's jaw clenched. That's not true, he said. And if you can't respect my wife and my daughter, you don't get access to us. Linda stared at him like he'd committed a crime. Then she snapped her gaze to me. This is you, she hissed. You've poisoned him. I shrugged. If the truth is poison, Linda, maybe your system was already failing. Her eyes flicked toward the window, toward Lily's room, and I stepped forward before she could even think about pulling my child into her war. My voice went calm as glass. If you ever say one unkind thing to my child again, I told her, you will not enjoy what happens next. Linda's nostrils flared. For a second, I thought she might slap me. Then she spun around and stormed back to her SUV, tires squealing as she backed out like she was fleeing consequences. Jason exhaled. I didn't congratulate him. One decent moment doesn't erase 7 years of cowardice, but it proved something important. He could have done this earlier. He just didn't. Life after that was paperwork and boundaries, a temporary custody schedule, therapy for Jason, rules that didn't bend for Linda's just stopping by. Linda tried to tell the family I was unstable, vindictive, jealous, whatever word made her feel powerful. But Lily was never a good audience for propaganda. My grandma said I don't belong, she told me one night, quiet and matter-of-fact, like she was reporting the weather. I pulled her close. She was wrong, I said. And you never have to shrink to fit someone else's cruelty. Jason heard her say it once, and I watched his face change, like he finally understood this wasn't about me winning an argument. It was about Lily building her identity, and whether she'd build it around shame or around truth. A few months later, Lily and I sat in our new apartment. Nothing fancy, just sunlight and quiet and a pool she loved. It wasn't a glamorous escape. It was a reset, a place where no one could show up unannounced without consequences. Lily colored at the table, tongue sticking out in concentration. Mom, she asked without looking up, do I belong with you? I set everything down. I leaned in. You belong with me, I said. And you belong with people who love you right. She nodded, satisfied, like her heart had been waiting for that sentence. Then she grinned. If you have a wedding someday, can I invite whoever I want? I laughed, soft and real. Yes, you can. Then I'm inviting you, she declared, because you're my favorite. I hugged her so tight she squeaked. Linda said Lily didn't belong with them. She was right, just not the way she meant it. Lily didn't belong in rooms where love is conditional and children are treated like inconveniences. She didn't belong anywhere she had to earn basic kindness. She belonged with me, and I finally belonged to myself. As for Brittany, she got her photos. She also got a wedding people still whisper about. The one where payments didn't clear, dinner stalled, The bar shut down, and the screaming started. And Jason learned the hard way what happens when you choose your mother over your family. I didn't ruin a wedding. I ruined an illusion, and illusions were always going to break. I just happened to be holding the bank app when it did. Thanks for watching till the end. If this story hit close to home, give it a like and subscribe for more. And I'm curious, who do you think was really wrong here? Tell me in the comments. See you next time.